Welcome back to the deep dive. I had a bit of a moment this morning.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I was standing in my kitchen, coffee in hand, and I realized I need to replace my grinder. And usually that's a whole 20-minute rabbit hole.
Opening a dozen tabs.
Exactly. Opening Google, 5 tabs, reading top 10 lists from sites I've never even heard of, trying to cross-reference prices. But today, I just opened an app, spoke into it, and said, what's the best burr grinder for a French press under $200?
And let me guess.
Yeah.
It just gave you the answer?
Instantaneously. One clear recommendation. It even explained why the ceramic burrs were better at that price point, and I was just done. And it hit me. The way we find things hasn't just changed a little bit. The whole foundation has cracked. We aren't really searching anymore.
We're asking.
We're asking.
That is the shift. We are witnessing the end of the search era, hunting through all those blue links in the beginning of the answer era.
Yeah.
We're moving from retrieval to synthesis. And for anyone running a business, that is actually terrifying.
Right.
Because if the AI doesn't know you, or worse, if it doesn't trust you, you basically don't exist.
Which brings us directly to the stack of research we have on the desk today. We're looking at a brand new service that's launching in March 2026, so just a couple months from now, from a company called SEO Vendor. They're calling it the Z series. And the entire premise is built around this acronym, GEO, not SEO. GEO.
Generative Engine Optimization.
Right. And I want to be skeptical for a second, because in marketing, we love a new buzzword, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Is this just SEO with a fresh coat of paint? Or is this actually, different plumbing?
Looking at these technical documents, it is definitely different plumbing. In fact, the goals are almost opposite.
How so?
Well, traditional SEO is all about rankings.
Okay.
You want to be position 1, 2, or 3 on the list. You're fighting for real estate.
Okay.
GEO is about discovery. You want to be the answer. You want the AI to synthesize your brand right into its response.
So in the old world, I'm trying to get you to click my link. In this new world, I'm trying to get the robot to recommend me so you don't
have to click anything.
Precisely.
And the source material highlights this massive technical shift to make that happen. The move from keywords to entities.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because keywords have been the holy grail for, 20 years? If I sell pizza in Chicago, I just put Chicago pizza on my website 100 times.
Right.
So what is an entity, and why does the AI care?
Think of a keyword as just a sticker. It's just text. If I misspell it, it's a different sticker. To an old search engine, bank could mean a river bank or a financial bank. It has to guess from context. An entity, however, is more like a unique ID in the AI's brain. It's a concept. The example in the notes here is Nashville car dealer.
Okay.
To an AI, that isn't just 3 words. It's a specific object in its knowledge graph that has attributes. It has a location, it has hours, it has a reputation score, it has inventory.
So an entity is like a dossier, a full profile.
Exactly. And the whole goal of this Z-Series campaign is to take your business and define it as an entity so clearly that the AI creates, and this is their phrase, tight, consistent signal clarity.
Signal clarity. I like.
You're basically training the AI to recognize you as a fact, not just another website.
That phrase, signal clarity, really stood out to me. It sounds like we're trying to stop the mumbling.
That's a great way to put it. If your website says you're a bakery, but Yelp says you're a cafe, and some press release says you're a catering company, the AI gets confused. It hallucinates. Its confidence score in you just drops.
I see.
The Z-Series is designed to align all those signals, your entity attributes.
Yeah.
So the AI says, okay, I know exactly who this is, and I trust this information enough to serve it to a user.
And they are starting small with this, right? The documents say the campaign targets just 5 entities. That seemed low to me at first.
Yeah.
In SEO, we'd target hundreds of keywords.
It does seem low until you realize this is about reputation, not just volume. You can't be famous for everything at once. The strategy here is to pick your 5 pillars. Maybe it's your brand name, your founder, your core service, your city, and lock those in as absolute truths in the neural network.
Got it.
Once the AI trusts those 5 things, then you can expand. But you have to build that foundation first.
And we are just talking about ChatGPT here. I was kind of surprised by the list of generative engines this Z-Series covers. It's not a one-horse race.
No, and that's critical. They list OpenAI's ChatGPT, obviously, but also Google Gemini, Anthropic's Claude, xAI's Grok.
Perplexity, Sonar, DeepSeek.
Yeah, the whole list.
I feel like everyone has a different favorite right now. I'm seeing a lot of people move to Perplexity because it cites its sources better.
Exactly. And each of those models thinks differently. They're trained on different data sets. Gemini has real-time access to Google's index. Claude is trained on this massive corpus of text with a focus on safety and nuance.
So optimizing for one doesn't mean you'll show up in the other.
Not at all. That's why this Z-series is pitched as a multi-engine campaign. You can't just put all your eggs in the Sam Altman basket.
The Sam Altman basket. Okay, so let's get into the specifics of the offer. Because this is a product launch. March 15th, 2026. This isn't theoretical. They're selling this thing.
Right.
And the pricing caught my eye. They list a regular price of $749 a month, but they have a pre-order running right now for $599.
20% discount, yeah, to lock it in.
And if there's a scarcity element, I saw that. They've capped the pre-order at 50 spots.
50, yeah.
Now, be honest. Is that just a marketing tactic? Act now, supplies are limited, or is there a real reason to cap it?
Well, there's always a bit of marketing theater, sure.
Yeah.
But looking at the deliverables list, this is heavy manual labor. This isn't some software tool where you just click run and it services a million users. There's a lot of human intervention required here. I suspect the cap is actually an operational necessity.
Okay, let's look at that workload. Because for $600 a month, I want to know what I'm getting. It's broken down into what? Strategic, content, outreach, and social.
Yeah, the strategic part is what we touched on, defining those 5 entities and doing a GEO AI analysis.
Yeah.
Basically auditing how the robots see you right now. But the content section is where it gets interesting.
Yeah, I saw AI written 5,000 words, and I immediately thought, wait, why am I paying you? I can get ChatGPT to write 5,000 words for free in 10 seconds.
You can, and it will sound like every other generic piece of content on the web.
Right.
And the AI models will just ignore it because it adds no new value.
Yeah.
The difference here is the tool they say they're using, SEO GPT-2.
Is that their proprietary thing?
It appears so. The claim is that it writes content specifically structured to define these entities. It's writing for the machine to understand, not just for a human to skim. Plus, and this is the key, they guarantee no plagiarism and human review.
That human review part is huge. I've seen some unedited AI content that is just, well, it's embarrassing. It's dangerous. If your AI content hallucinates a fact about your product, you're liable. So having a human in the loop is worth the admission price alone. But honestly, the real value in this package, it isn't the on-site content.
It's the off-site work, the outreach.
Yes. They include mass press releases and what they call DA50, DA90 HQ links.
Okay, translate that for the non-nerds. DA.
Domain authority. It's a score of how trusted a website is. A DA90 site is like the New York Times or Forbes. A DA10 is some random blog started yesterday.
So they're getting you mentions on really high-authority sites.
Right, and they include 2 on-site blog posts and 3 off-site blog posts every single month.
Why is the off-site stuff so important for GEO? I thought we just needed to teach the AI about our website.
Think about it like a courtroom. If you stand up and say, I am innocent, the jury listens, but they know you're biased. But if 3 independent, respected witnesses stand up and say he is innocent, the jury believes it. AI works on corroboration.
So it's looking for outside proof. Exactly. If your website is the only place on the internet claiming you are the best plumber in Denver, the AI treats that as a claim, not a fact. But if 5 other high-authority websites confirm it, the AI encodes that as a fact.
You are building a perimeter of evidence.
Exactly. You are validating your entity. Without those external signals, you're just talking to yourself.
And they are doing this globally, too. I noticed the language support list. It's not just English. It's US, UK, Australian, Canadian English. And then that Spanish list, Mexican, Colombian, Argentine.
That is a very smart detail.
Yeah.
We often forget that these large language models are incredibly sensitive to dialect and nuance.
Yeah.
The way a user in Mexico City asks for insurance is different from how a user in Buenos Aires asks for it. The vocabulary, the cultural context, it's all different.
So by localizing the content,
You are signaling to the AI, I am relevant to this specific user in this specific location. It just increases the probability of a match.
Okay, we have to talk about the guarantee, because this is usually where I roll my eyes. In the SEO world, guaranteed rankings is usually code for scam. You can't guarantee a third-party algorithm.
You can't.
But SEO Vendor is putting some very specific language in writing here.
They are. And it's aggressive. There's a standard 30-day money-back guarantee, which is, table stakes. But the big one is the 6-month result guarantee.
Read that out for us. What exactly are they promising?
Okay, the text says, If all on-page and off-page optimizations and recommendations are followed, and you did not receive a single improvement in brand visibility after 6 months, they work for free until results are seen.
Work for free. That is a bold move. It sounds a little risky for them, doesn't it?
It signals a lot of confidence. But look closely at the wording. They do not guarantee you will be ranked #1. They guarantee improvement in visibility.
Right. They aren't promising you'll win the Super Bowl. They're just promising you'll make the playoffs.
Exactly. And they are very explicit in the fine print. They state, no vendor controls how LLMs rank or summarize. They cannot promise a fixed outcome like #1 in every LLM. They're managing expectations. They frame this whole thing as infrastructure.
Infrastructure. That implied time. This isn't a light switch.
No. They state results can take 3 to 12 months. This is gardening, not grocery shopping. You're planting seeds in a neural network. It takes time for the model to update its weights, to ingest the new data, and to really learn who you are.
So if you need sales tomorrow,
you buy ads. If you want to exist in the future, you do this.
But this brings up the biggest problem with this whole GEO concept. Measuring it.
Right.
With Google, I can open my browser, type in my keyword, and see my website sitting there on page 1. I can screenshot it. I can frame it. With ChatGPT, it's a black box. If I ask it a question and you ask it the same question, we might get different answers. It's dynamic.
It is dynamic, and that makes reporting an absolute nightmare. You can't prove you are winning with a simple screenshot.
So how does the Z series solve that? Or do they just say, trust us?
No, they have a solution. It's a tool they've built called Ranklins.
Ranklins. Sounds cool, but what does it actually do?
It addresses that randomness problem with something called multi-sampling.
Multi-sampling.
So instead of asking the AI once and just hoping for the best, the system asks the AI the same question, or variations of it, 4 times, 8 times, 16 times. It treats the AI like a focus group. It's looking for statistical probability.
So it's not asking, are we there? It's asking, how often do we show up?
Exactly. In 100 conversations, you appeared 60 times. That gives you a share of voice metric. It turns that fuzzy creative output into hard data.
Okay.
But the metric that really fascinated me in the Ranklins documentation was brand confusion.
Oh, I loved this. Tell the listeners what brand confusion is.
It is exactly what it sounds like. Ranklins monitors when the AI gets you wrong. Does it think your luxury hotel is a budget hostel? Does it think your law firm is a bakery because your name is Baker & Associates?
That seems incredibly dangerous. If the AI is confidently telling people the wrong information about you, you're losing customers and you don't even know it.
Exactly. You aren't sitting there typing your own name into ChatGPT all day. You'd never know. Ranklins spots those hallucinations so you can go back and fix your entity signals. It's basically brand surveillance for the AI age.
They also mentioned something called signal isolation.
That's the attribution piece. It attempts to map specific actions to specific results. We released a press release on Tuesday, and the AI confidence score went up on Thursday. It's tried to solve that black box problem of not knowing what actually worked.
It seems like they've built a pretty robust tech stack. They mentioned Insight Igniter for finding topics, SEO GPT-2 for the content, and Core AI for the analytics. This isn't just a guy with a ChatGPT subscription.
No, this is enterprise-level tooling brought down to a price point that a small to mid-sized business can actually afford.
I want to clarify one thing before we move on, because I know our listeners will ask. What about Google Maps, the local pack? If I'm a plumber, I need to show up when someone searches plumber near me on their phone. Does the Z series do that?
The short answer is no, not directly.
Right.
The source material is very honest about this. The Z series supports visibility in AI surfaces, like those AI overviews you see at the top of Google now. But it does not promise specific placement in the traditional local map pack.
So traditional local SEO isn't dead yet?
Not yet.
Yeah.
You still need your Google business profile. You still need your reviews. However, the documents do note that the trust signals overlap. If an AI trusts you enough to recommend you, Google's traditional algorithm probably likes you too. But they are distinct games. You are effectively running on 2 tracks now, the old track SEO and this new track GEO.
It feels like the tracks are merging, though.
They are. Eventually, they will be the same track.
Oh.
But for 2026, you have to play both.
So let's wrap this up with the big picture. We have the Z series launching March 15th. 50 spots, $5.99 a month. It's a comprehensive campaign to turn your business into an entity. Who is this actually for? The local pizza shop, or is this for the big guys?
Well, they offer an M series, which is just about getting GEO ready, sort of a baseline. But this Z series, this is for the proof of concept crowd, It's for the business owner who looks at the way their kids are using the internet, talking to Snapchat AI, asking ChatGPT for homework help, and realizes, I need to own that conversation before my competitor does.
It's for the early adopters.
It is. It's for the person who wants to be an entity, not just a keyword.
That's the phrase that's going to stick with me. I am not a keyword. I am an entity.
In the eyes of the machine, that is the only way to be real.
Before we sign off, I want to leave the listener with a thought. We've spent this whole time talking about optimization, signal clarity, confidence scores. It's all very technical. But think about what we're actually doing here. We aren't trying to persuade a human anymore. We aren't writing a catchy headline to get a click. We are feeding raw data to a neural network.
We've moved from persuasion to education.
Exactly. If optimization is now about influencing the training signals of a massive brain, does marketing become less about creativity and more about teaching? Are we just becoming data librarians for the robots?
That is the provocative thought. If the user never visits your website because the AI gives them the answer, then your website isn't a storefront anymore.
What is it?
It's a textbook. And your job is to make sure the textbook is accurate.
A frightening and fascinating possibility. If the AI is the gatekeeper, you better make sure it has the right key.
Indeed.
If you want to geek out on the specific pricing tables or see that full list of generative engines we mentioned, because there was a lot of tech in there we couldn't cover, check the sources we've linked. The Z-Series launch is March 15th, 2026.
And remember, whether you buy a campaign or not, the AI is already learning about you. Make sure it's learning the right things.
Thanks for listening to The Deep Dive. We'll see you next time.